I want to talk about how social transition is not just a trans people thing. This
Yes.
isn't just trans people and non-binary people that do this. We might
Hmm.
not call it socially transitioning when we're talking about
Uh-huh.
cis people, but that is essentially what's going on. When people change their first names all the time for various different reasons, and even
Mhm.
changing your last name when, for example, when people get married is one reason, a very common reason that people change their last name. That
Mhm.
is, for a lot of people, very exciting, very affirming. It's a real sort of moment for them to mark the next stage of their life, whatever that looks like for them.
Mm.
Um, is is it all that different to socially transitioning for trans and non-binary people?
I mean, I don't think so. I like the analogy, or for us to think about it broader than
Mm.
just a trans thing, or trans or non-binary thing, because we maybe haven't mapped it together for people to
Mm-hmm.
understand. One, it's really important, these types of steps. Two,
Mm-hmm.
takes a little work. Maybe that work
Right.
could be a little easier. Like, it's way easier to change your last name because things are set
Mm-hmm.
up to make that
Mm-hmm.
possible, It's a little more hard, like it's a little harder, maybe even a lot harder for trans and non-binary folks to change. But I would say that there is a social transition when somebody, a cisgender person, changes their name.
Mm-hmm.
When it's through marriage, you are combining yourself with another person and you're
Mm-hmm.
creating a, a pathway together, right? And that's marked and celebrated and supported, and all these great things, which it should. And it is an
Mm-hmm.
exciting moment. Now, not every woman is excited by taking the last name, or person in
Nor do you have
general.
to do it.
Nope, nope. But for those who do, that it's wonderful that it's wonderful, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there are also folks who change their first name, and there's a variety of different reasons why cisgender people do different names. Let's talk about the cultural ones first. I know in indigenous nations and communities, they're marking different milestones with different names that you take
Mm-hmm.
on that have deep meaning and resonance and are based on that person's personality and their gifts and their skills and what the family hopes they will become. There's so much there, and their spiritual connection to ancestors, etc., etc. There are, other cultures around the world that do similar things.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of tied to rites of passage. And there's also folks who maybe not related to culture, but through family, if somebody dies and they were really close to that person, they may take on that person's name, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a way to honor, right? So there's just like all these different ways that people are updating their first names, whether it's only socially and or perhaps even legally.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow that's accepted, but for some people, trans and non-binary names are not, is very
Mm-hmm.
confusing. I don't
I
understand that.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like it's sort of a similar process. Like I remember when my sister got married, and she had obviously my last name, and then
Mm,
after getting married, had changed her last name, and everybody kept slipping up and saying the old name, and then being like, "Oh, sorry, I meant this name," and it was just sort
mm,
of until people got used to it, and now people are used to it, and they wouldn't even consider calling her by her old last name. And it's just things like that. There are so many parallels, and yeah, the only difference is that it's socially accepted, that
yeah,
it's understood and socially accepted. But
yeah.
aside from that, it's really not that different. And that could extend to so many things, like, I don't know, using a nickname. That's
Mm,
not to suggest that trans and non-binary names are nicknames, but it's a similar kind of concept. For, let's say, for example, a cis person wants to go
mm,
by a sort of a nickname with their friends. Why is that not a social transition? Like, it
yeah,
is. That's all that is. No.
yeah. People are updating things and adjusting things, and it could be for joyful reasons. It could be for sad reasons. Like, it's just, I wish we were factored into a broader dynamic
Mm-hmm.
and, uh, you know, variability that is there. It exists,
Right.
and we're just one aspect of a much larger expression of that.